welcome to this week's video. As you may have guessed by the somewhat unfamiliar background behind me, I'm currently away from home. I'm on holiday in the Lake District for a week and I'm so looking forward to this week. It's always my most anticipated holiday of the year. Pretty much every year of my life we've come to the Lake District at this kind of end of October, early November time. Avoiding half term at the moment, but it used to be my half term holiday when I was at school. And I just absolutely adore this place at this time of year. The colours, the autumn scenery, it's just absolutely wonderful, as well as the cosy vibes, which are at their peak in a cottage in such a beautiful environment. So I will probably have shown you some B-roll of the cottage. If not, I will be doing that now. It's really cute. We've not stayed here before, but it is in one of the towns in the Lake District, which I know very well, which is Keswick, up in the north part of the lakes. And we're very well placed to do lots of exploring, lots of mountain walking and forest explorations and river walks and everything else that I love about being here, as well as having a very cozy time and hopefully doing a lot of reading too. I'm usually very productive on holidays, so I look forward to making a dent into some of the rest of my autumn TBR and getting some really good reading time. So I will stop rambling for now and go and unpack, but I will check in with you a little bit later and let you know what my first read of the week will be. So to give you an overview of the books I'm going to read this week, I do have an audiobook of Jekyll and Hyde as well to add to this. So firstly, for the physical books, we have The Kitchen Witch by Sarah Robinson, which looks like a wonderful collection of witchy-based folklore and fairy tales, and I'm really excited for that. We have Malice by John Gwynne, which is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen quartet, which I'm really excited to reread. Really looking forward to that one. We have Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft, one of the library books which I've brought with me this week. Again, fantasy, a little bit lighter. I don't know much about it, but I'm really excited too. And then finally, as an outside pick, Wuthering Heights, in case I run out of things to read. I have a couple of other and audiobook options as well if I fancy something different, so really lots to work on this week. Let's hope it's a good one. Hello again. So I am now cozying up for the evening. Forgive the awful lighting. This was about the best I could find under the spotlight, but it's still not great. But it does afford you a rather interesting and quirky background of jam and books. I don't know. I'm going with it. So I just wanted to let you know that I have already finished an entire book today, albeit a short one. It was a novella, but I'm feeling productive already, which is great, and also very much in the spooky season spirit. So I listened on my drive up here to the audiobook of Carmilla via Audible, which is, I think, one of the Audible original full cast narrations, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I had been meaning to listen to this for probably over a year now. I'd come across it and thought I must read that one around Halloween. So indeed I have. I thoroughly enjoyed this, as I said. I think probably more so for the acting and the narration than actually for the story. I think the story was probably a 3 out of 5, but because I really enjoyed the performance, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. So it was a novella, as I said. It is written in, I think, the 1800s. It predates Dracula. It's one of the first vampire books that is out there, and follows the exploits, I suppose, of a vampire called Carmilla and her interactions with a young woman called Laura, who lives in her family's castle in, I think it's Styria, so it's kind of Central Europe. Very much the traditional vampire type setting that we can picture from Dracula. But as I said, this is earlier in history, and Laura and her father live in this castle until one day a mysterious carriage arrives in the night and deposits this strange young woman to stay with them, who is Carmilla. And Carmilla and Laura form this strange, toxic, kind of very passionate and mysterious relationship. They have this sort of forbidden attraction to each other, and Laura becomes more and more under Carmilla's spell, and some very dark deeds start to happen in the neighbourhood, and it's just all the creepy vibes that I was hoping for. And as I said, a thoroughly enjoyable book. It did take me less than 2 hours to listen to this because I listened to it slightly sped up, but wonderful narration, wonderful performance from all of the actors, including one of my favourites, David Tennant, with a quite amusing German accent. But yeah, all in all, a really good book to start off the holiday, and I'm glad I've ticked another one off my autumn TBR so far. The cosiest setting for the first evening of this holiday. I am looking forward to picking up a new book and continuing on with my witchy theme of the month's reading, and hopefully learning a lot from this as well. I'm really looking forward to developing my knowledge of witches and of folklore and magic and everything else that's intertwined with the legends around them. And I feel like this will be a really fun read, so I will settle down for a cozy evening in front of the fire and see how I get on with this one. Just popping in to very quickly document, I bought a new jacket and I'm obsessed with it. We spent the afternoon after getting completely wet and soaked to the skin on a walk earlier. We just went into Keswick and spent the afternoon doing some shopping. You can tell I've been in the rain. I look very wild and windswept, but I do not care. But I absolutely fell in love with this. It's such thick, cozy fabric, and it's got like a fur lining to it, you can probably see. And also a really cute hood, and it's just my favourite shade of forest green, and I am absolutely in love with this, so we'll be wearing it for most of this holiday and probably most of the winter. But yeah, just wanted to jump in and document this moment. I'm just about to hop in the shower, and then I will probably have another cosy evening by the fire doing some more reading. I have a lot of books on the go already, so I don't know which one I'll be picking up, but stay tuned and you will see very soon. So this evening's read turned out to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I mainly listened to the audiobook of this while doing some of my colouring book, but I did read along physically a little bit too. I had a beautiful cosy evening by the fire. This audiobook was really well done. It was narrated by the actor Richard Armitage, who had the most perfect subtle change in voice between our two title characters and just generally lent a wonderful gothic spooky feel to the story. This is only a novella, this story, but was the perfect gothic book in my opinion. It was exactly what I look for in this kind of story. Very creepy, Victorian, dark atmosphere, that general unsettling feeling that you never really know exactly how the story is going to go. You're led along this winding path, and always has suspense right till the very end. Beautifully written, as of a lot of books in this period, beautiful use of language, and I just really, really enjoyed this. I'm so glad that I have finally had the experience of reading the story, and actually the edition that I have has got some other short stories by the same author as well, which I may well pick up at some point in the future. Probably not this week, but we will see. So another spooky bit ticked off, and getting me very much in the mood for Halloween tomorrow. Hello! So I've read the entirety of a book already this morning, although it's not as great an accomplishment as it sounds, as it was only 60-something pages long. Very, very short, but one which I have been meaning to read for a very long time, and that is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. Now, obviously, this is one of the most famous Halloween season spooky stories out there. I've never read it before, I've never even watched the film. It's just something that somehow in my life I have avoided, but no longer. I decided to pick this one up this morning. I just found an ebook copy on the internet, as I don't actually own it, and was just in the mood for a creepy story this morning, and I raced through it in about an hour's time, and I had a really, really good time with it. So it's very typically written of its time. I think it was written in the 1800s, in that it's very, very wordy, very descriptive. There are these long, long passages talking about the characters who live in this particular settlement, or the visual aspects of the society, or describing certain events in very, very great detail, and the food that they're eating at these occasions, and lots of descriptive writing. But I really like that kind of writing, and especially in a short story you can get away with that level of description because you know that you're not going to have to read pages and pages and pages of it. So I really enjoyed that. It was a beautifully atmospheric, creepy setting. I can just visualize exactly what it must look like, and I had a really good time with the story. Characters were they were almost like caricatures of characters. They were very, very exaggerated, but I liked that. Again, it worked for this kind of story because you don't have long to get to know them, so you want to have a very strong opinion of that character, even though you've only met them for a very short period of time. And I liked the fact that there wasn't a set conclusion at the end, so it's left very open that it could be a supernatural event, or it could be somebody else behind it, and it could be some kind of prank from somebody else in the settlement, or we don't really know what happens. And I like that it's left open like that. That's my favourite kind of ending for this sort of story. I don't want them to be overtly trying to convert you that supernatural events absolutely do happen, but equally I don't want them to be just naysaying it either. It's nice to have that open element. So all in all, a very enjoyable story. another beautiful but wild and very windswept day in the mountains. Hello, so I am now back from another very wild but very enjoyable walk, looking a little bit windswept here, but it was okay. It was very much worth it. I was dodging the showers, but it did end up actually raining at the top of the hill, as well as absolutely gale force winds. I could barely stand up at the top, but definitely worth it, as I said, for the beautiful nature that I was out enjoying. I just love being able to go up mountains every day. I wish I could do this every day of my life. But anyway, since getting back, I have cozied up in the cottage and I have actually finished a book. So I finished A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft, and I really enjoyed this. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. So I'm not sure if I've actually told you much about this one yet. So in this book we follow two main characters, the first of these being 17-year-old Margaret, who has grown up kind of a loner really, a little bit of a recluse. She lives in her family house, which is a few miles out of town, and actually spends a long time on her own because her mother is always off on these research trips. Her mother is an alchemist, and Margaret has kind of resigned herself that that's how her life is going to be. until one evening she encounters, completely by chance, this mysterious creature called the Hulla, which the story is kind of based around, and every year the folk in the town near to her stage like a fox hunt, essentially, where they try and hunt down this Hulla, and whoever catches it, whoever is first to the prize, gets fame and riches and everything else that they could want. And so the arrival of this Hulla into Margaret's world changes things, potentially forever. We will find out. The other main character is Weston, who is new to town and actually arrives seeking an apprenticeship as an alchemist from Margaret's mother. However, things don't necessarily go to plan, but the two nevertheless encounter each other, and so begins the story. I really, really enjoyed this. I loved the feel of the magic, but I loved more than that. I liked the fact that we had very strong family dynamics in this, and we had some beautiful character relationships, including the romance, which I was actually really, really impressed with. So I was worried that this would be very stereotypical YA. I think it's YA, this book. I'm not 100% sure, but it reads very YA. But anyway, I was worried that it would be a kind of cliche YA romance, which I wouldn't get on well with at all. But actually it was really sweet, this, and very slow burn and subtle in a lot of ways. And I really liked both of the characters, so I was rooting for them to be together. But I think my favourite thing about this was actually the setting. So the town that it's set in and the descriptions of the characters and things definitely gave me a kind of 1920s inspired feel to it, which I assume was intentional, but which I really, really enjoyed, as the 20s is one of my favourite periods of history. So you got lots of references to like the fashions they were wearing, so they kept on about like drop waist dresses and the hats, and they talked about moonshine being produced, and just lots of little references which I thought, oh yeah, this feels like the 20s, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of the story. So a 4 out of 5 stars, as I said, definitely one which I would read again, and I would definitely look to read more by this author as well, because it was a beautifully written book. So now I've finished that one. My next plan is to move on to Malice, which I am so excited to get back to. It's been years since I read this book, and I am just desperate to dive back into this world. I haven't actually read a high fantasy for ages either, so really, really excited for this one, and that will probably carry me through for the rest of the week. So let's get reading. Hello! So, another day, another mountain. This is actually the 6th one I've completed this week, and for a week that was supposed to be slightly dodgy with its weather forecast, I'm counting that as a great success. Yes, they have been slightly smaller mountains than I usually would have targeted, but it's still been really good to tick off some new ones and just be out in nature, more importantly, and feel productive and doing exercise and taking in all of this gorgeous scenery. I just love it so much here. I wish I could stay forever. And also a novelty of being warm. I've actually come up most of this mountain in just a t-shirt today, which is ridiculous for November, but I will take it. So on a reading front, I am so excited to be back in the world of Malice, which I started last night. I'm absolutely loving being back in this world and rediscovering some favourite characters, and it's just such a beautiful book, and I'm actually savouring this early part of it because I do remember from the last time I read this that I look back on these first few chapters as kind of the nostalgic, cosy start to the story before the characters set off on their great adventures. So I'm making the most of that feeling, but I am also very excited to get on with the action. So I'll definitely be reading a good chunk more of this evening once I get back. A beautiful morning out here. The mist on the lake and the autumn colours, it's absolute perfection. Hello, so as you will see by the now different background, I am back home, very sadly home from holiday. I've had the best week. I couldn't have wished for a better week. It was everything I hoped it would be. Beautiful autumn scenery, very productive reading, and just a break from work and responsibility and other life pressures. It's sometimes you just need to take yourself out of a situation and realise that the little things in life are really, really important, and just do that kind of reset, which I very much needed and very much had this week. I've also, as I said, had a really productive week with reading, so I've actually finished 5 whole books and started a 6th. Briefly going through those, I had a really good time with some gothic spooky season reads. I read Carmilla, I read Jekyll and Hyde, and I also read Sleepy Hollow, all of which had been on my TBR for some time to get to. And I loved the gothic vibes of all of those. I like traditional Halloween books, and I'm really glad that I got through all of those. I also really enjoyed Far Wilder Magic. I was pleasantly surprised by that one, in fact. I wasn't sure what to expect going into it, but it was a really captivating story and just the kind of fantasy I was in the mood for. And then I have also read a middle grade book, which I didn't actually tell you I was reading, but have been working my way through as an ebook throughout the week, that being The Haunting of Evelyn Jones, which I had picked up actually on a recommendation from Jade, from Jadey Ray Reads, a long time ago, and had just never got to, and felt like it was the perfect thing for this time of year. So I had a lovely time with that. That was yet another 4 out of 5 stars. I've had lots of those this week. And then finally, I am now partway through Malice by John Gwynne, which I am so excited to be back with and having a really good time. So I'm not going to say that I will carry on as productively over the next week as I have done while I've been away, but if I can get this book finished by the end of the week, then I'll have been doing well. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap up this video because I feel like it's probably very long by this point. So give me a like down below if you enjoyed it. Chat to me in the comments about anything I've mentioned this week, any of the books I've read, the places I've been. I love to chat to you guys. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me. It really, really means a lot and helps to grow my channel as well. Thank you for watching. I will see you very soon with the next video. So goodbye for now.